Welcome back to another episode. We're revisiting de-dollarization as trends continue to accelerate globally. When we visited this topic in prior videos, we explored some of the driving factors and potential impacts that BRICS and de-dollarization are expected to have on gold. And we addressed some of the claims that de-dollarization is overblown. Today, we're diving a little deeper into the impacts with forecasts from central banks and exploring more of their data. For those of you who haven't seen our other videos or been keeping up with the news, here's a quick reminder of what de-dollarization is. De-dollarization is a trend occurring globally where foreign countries are choosing to dump the dollar for mostly geopolitical reasons. At the center of these efforts are the BRICS countries, with China at the helm and a new currency in development. We previously detailed how this could be a win for gold even though it's at the expense of the dollar. And we want to note that even if de-dollarization's true effect is milder than imagined, the concern that it could be a massive shift is still going to have a proper effect on central bank gold buying. Gold is held by central banks in large quantities. Estimates say that roughly a fifth of all gold ever mined is held by central banks, and they're planning to buy more in the future. A recent survey conducted by the World Gold Council reveals that 62% of banks expect gold reserves to increase as a total share of assets held, compared to just 46% a year prior. In addition, the percentage of US dollars held in reserve is predicted to drop further into the 40 to 50% range over the next 5 years. Now, interestingly, de-dollarization was considered serious enough to make it onto the list of reasons to hold gold in the survey. And the survey says that 38% of central bankers consider holding gold as part of their de-dollarization strategy at least marginally relevant. As of early May 2023, the BRICS nations have combined central bank gold holdings that account for more than 15% of all the gold held in the world's central banks. Russia, India, and China are ranking in the top 10 when it comes to gold holdings, and murmurs of the new BRICS currency suggest that it will be backed by a basket of commodities including gold. Emerging economies, worried about U.S. interference and sanctions, have been turning to gold as a reserve asset and are buying in quantity. A BRICS currency that is backed by gold may be attractive to them as a new means of trade. It should be important to note that sanctions on a country like Russia can affect a number of nations that trade with Russia but have no say in what's going on with Ukraine. For example, if Argentina wants to buy fertilizer from Russia, they cannot do so with US dollars. They have to use another currency. So countries that are unintentionally impacted by US sanctions are also exploring their options through their central banks. All of this makes sense when you consider that gold is highly convertible to any currency. If you're a central bank and you're not sure that holding the US dollar is going to be a good long-term play, but you're not quite sure what's going to happen in terms of replacement currency, what do you acquire? You buy gold. At present, the world reserve currency is the US dollar, and it's a unipolar world. The majority of trade is conducted in US dollars. The petrodollar agreement assures that almost all transactions for oil occur in US dollars. And one of the effects of de-dollarization may not be a passing of the crown, but more the creation of multiple crowns. We may switch from a unipolar world to a multipolar world, where instead of trade being largely conducted in just one currency, we may have multiple currencies that are viable for trade. But whether you're switching from one hegemony to another, or if the system gradually becomes multipolar, gold will remain a reliable unit of exchange in either scenario. A central bank does not need to gamble if they're putting their money in gold, whereas making a big bet on a specific currency could spell disaster. It's an unnecessary risk when an asset like gold exists. And if you are trying to work around sanctions, whether you are the intended target or not, having a lot of gold can be a big help. Central banks are ahead of the curve on this. The numbers are in for Q1 2023. Central banks bought a little over 228 tons of gold in the first quarter. This was a 176% increase over the same time period last year, and 34% higher than the previous record. We thought last year was a big year for gold purchases at central banks. Whew. When you look at the rolling 4-quarter totals, central bank purchases of gold are just massive over the past year when compared to quarters stretching all the way back to 2010. So what are we learning here? Well, it looks like central banks are aware of the de-dollarization trend that's occurring, and they're adjusting their portfolios to work around it, hedge against risk. Central bank gold buying is expected to remain robust, and it has already accelerated in 2023. These signals from central banks are a positive indicator for gold in the mid to long term. That's all we have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.